Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir are celebrated as the godparents of postmodernism, apostles of freedom and rebellion. Yet behind the myth lies a pattern of cowardice, opportunism, political silence, and sexual predation. In many ways, they seemed more like opportunists who mocked real political movements with absurdist theatre. As Sartre once wrote in Being and Nothingness, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. For Sartre and Beauvoir, this meant creating lives of radical self-invention. But in practice, it often meant rationalizing cruelty as freedom. Beauvoir famously declared in The Second Sex, "One is not born, but becomes a woman." Yet in her private life, she manipulated young women into becoming sexual experiments. In 1939, she seduced her 17-year-old student, Nathalie Sorokin. Beauvoir's teaching license was revoked for corrupting a minor. In her letters to Sartre, she described these girls not as people, but as conquests to be shared. In one letter about a student she had groomed, Beauvoir coolly remarked, "She is much taken with me, but I think you will finish her off." Here the language is clinical, detached, like two predators coordinating the disposal of prey. The pact of predation, disguised as intellectual freedom. In 1941, Sartre accepted a teaching post at the Lycée Condorcet, a chair vacated when a Jewish professor was dismissed under Vichy's racial laws and then deported to a concentration camp. Sartre never objected. Instead, he justified complicity with the language of freedom. In Being and Nothingness, he wrote, "Freedom is what you do with what has been done to you." But what he did with his freedom was take a job cleared by racial persecution and probably given to him because he was a Nazi collaborator, actions that speak volumes. 2 decades later, Sartre and Beauvoir travelled to Mao's China as part of a publicity stunt during the Cultural Revolution. They described the regime in glowing terms. Beauvoir enthused, "China is the most egalitarian country in the world." This, even as millions were persecuted, starved, and executed. Their opportunism wasn't limited to the bedroom, it extended to politics and careers. Neither Sartre nor Beauvoir condemned Hitler or Vichy during the war. Neither condemned Stalin during the height of the gulags. Instead, they justified silence as engagement with history. Sartre once defended his refusal to denounce the USSR by claiming, "One does not criticize one's comrades while they are in the line of fire." The comrades in question were the Soviet regime, not its victims. Their political silences read as moral failures, rationalized by ideology. Compare their words and actions with clinical psychopathy, charm and manipulation. Sartre boasted in letters, "I seduce women like I breathe." Lack of empathy. Beauvoir described passing a student to Sartre as if she were an object. "You will finish her off." Predatory sexuality. Their affairs followed a pattern of grooming and discarding. Transgression. Sartre wrote, "There is no reality except in action." A mantra of rule-breaking without regard for consequences. Grandiosity and rationalization. Beauvoir insisted, "Immorality is not the opposite of morality, but another mode of it." Taken together, their words read less like philosophy and more like the rationalizations of predators. Sartre and Beauvoir are remembered as liberators. Yet their legacy shows a darker truth. In their personal lives, they groomed and exploited. In their professional lives, they advanced by opportunism. In politics, they remained silent or complicit in the face of tyranny. Were they philosophers of freedom or callous opportunists cloaked in opportunistic sophism? The parallels seen both in their actions, writing, and silence seem to be very close to the character of dark triads, and the similarities to psychopathy are too striking to ignore. The question remains, were Sartre's and Beauvoir's writings a legitimate philosophy or rationalizations of people exhibiting symptoms of psychopathy? Philosophers or psychopaths? Were they champions of liberation or reactionary opportunists that got in the way of real progress? You decide. If this made you uncomfortable, good. That was the point. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.